Hello, friends. Welcome to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week, episode 26. We are back again, and Mike and I are two people coming back to comics after some time away, and we're getting back into the swing of things. We're going back into comic book shops and digging through piles and trying to find books that we're into. So every week we pick up some books and we come here and talk about them. And there's only so much room in the wallet and in our schedules to read books every week, so we tell you about the books and we tell you if it will fit into the schedule and the wallet to continue reading it. So there's only so many books we can get to, so we'll tell you if it made the cut, if we'll continue or if we'll stop. And there are some times when we're a week behind on some books, so there's some books that we don't get to because our shop doesn't carry them, or we have to do something else. So for those of you who are in the same position, hopefully that's helpful for some of you. We don't get all of them sent to us. So, but anyway, Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I think this has been a good week, comics wise. Boy, we got a lot of great stuff here. It was really difficult to pick one for me. Not to bury the lead, but we have some, I think, favorite series of both of us so far. I know you've been doing it longer than me, but some great work here. So happy to talk with you today. It's just it's been a wild ride, and I think one thing I'll just mention very briefly is, what I love about some of the comics that we read is you can just immerse yourself, and it's just, sometimes it's 20 minutes and you just forget, you just kind of immerse yourself and it's not like a huge novel.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're reading these tomes,
yeah,
which are also can be great, but it's something I really was appreciating this week for some reason, is just like I can just immerse myself in something, and I do like that escapism aspect. So I just wanted to mention that off the bat here.
Yeah, that struck me this week too, because we're reading the Prince of Nothing series together with the group on the forum, and it's not a tome. It's not like giant, but it's really dense. So it takes some time to get through, and we're taking it bite size, but it is nice just to jump in and enjoy it and then jump out and go to the next one. So it is a good time to do that. It's nice to just like you said, just immerse yourself, and 20 minutes later you're on to the next one. And I am getting better about cutting books that I'm not enjoying. I think I had a bad habit of just like sticking with the series when I really wasn't into it, but now I'm getting better at just knowing when to throw in the towel. So, but we'll get to that. But so I guess I'll kick it off this week with so we'll do the books we read individually first, and then we'll get into the books we read together, and then we'll get into our picks. The first book that I read this week is a series that I had contemplated throwing in the towel, and I'm glad I didn't, which is Antarctica. This is number 7. This is by Simon Burks, Willie Roberts. This is by Top Cow. Now, I will say this issue that not a ton happens. It doesn't seem like the story moves so much, but we do get more about Hannah and her past. There's a few answers, but a lot more questions than answers. I like the way that it's going, even if it is a slow burn. It takes some patience with stories like this that feel really wide in scope and feel like they're telling this really wide open story. So it takes patience to read month to month sometimes, but the art is fantastic. I love the artwork and the colors. The dialogue is a little goofy sometimes. It's kind of makes me laugh, and not in a good way, but overall it's a series I'll stick with just because I feel like they're doing something here. And I feel like there's something special about this book, and there'll be a payoff. So hopefully I'm not proven wrong.
Oh, great. If this is issue number 7, does that mean that there was a break after 6, or no?
No, I think it's about month to month. I think it's been pretty steady from what I remember. So it's been on time, I think. But it just feels like it about issue 6 or so. It really changed gears and had a completely different focus. So it does. There was a really abrupt change, but in a good way. I think it needed a change because the way that it was heading was getting a little tired. So I'm glad that they did make a change, that the story is moving a different direction, or at least the focus has changed. So I'm hoping that those first 5 issues or so start to make more sense as we get deeper into the story and have more answers. But we'll see.
Okay. Great. So I'll be speaking about Ministry of Compliance #2, which is by IDW, written by Ridley and with others contributing with artwork from Raffaele and Anderson. And as I mentioned, this is issue #2, so it picks up where we left off with issue #1. I know, Steve, you covered it a while back, and then I read it, so I think we both covered it on the channel separately. So I had to go back and kind of see where we left off, and because there's continuity, and so that's what I would recommend others to do. And we get to learn a little bit more about the homeworld of these ministers. I mean, that's in the title, Ministry of Compliance. There's several different ministers, and the gruesomeness and violence continue. If that's your thing, I'm okay with it so far. It's kind of similar to what you just said. In some ways, the dialogue, the writing, wasn't hitting for me on this one, and it was just reminiscent of other similar sci-fi, future or dystopian type of stuff, maybe. And so, in some ways, the characters are maybe not yet as developed as they could be. Maybe a few are becoming more and more developed. So as we learn more about them. But it's beautiful. The artwork is gorgeous, and it's just what I would call high production value. So just vibrant colors and good tone, and the pacing was a little bit sluggish compared to the first one, but overall, yeah, it was okay. It's one of those where I'm a little bit on the fence, but I think I want to see what happens next.
You mentioned the violence in the book. Do you think the violence is it gratuitous? Is it over the top? Is it? I mean, I know that neither of us we're not clutching our pearls, but I don't mind violence and blood when it's when it fits. But do you think it's kind of flows with the story, or is it too much?
It's a great question. I think both issue 1 and issue 2 might be a little bit over the top. Yeah, a little bit. I'd love to, if you get a chance to read this one, I'd love to hear what you think. But it's not throughout, so there might only be like 2 pages where you're just like, okay, well, it's almost like Quentin Tarantino kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's not like anyway, it's a little bit almost like, yeah, I don't know if that's, yeah, it's not affecting me per se, my enjoyment. It's in there. One of the main character wields a sword.
Yeah.
So.
And uses it.
Yes, and uses it.
Yeah.
Like a katana or what have you.
Yeah. So will you continue the series, you think, or what are you in the fence?
I think so. Yeah, I think I'll give it one more shot.
One more.
Yeah. For sure.
So a book that I read this week, and I think you had trouble finding this one at your local store, which is Crave. This is by Image Comics and by Maria Levette. And this one continues to be so it's very thought-provoking, and I'm not sure if I'm looking too deep into this, or if I'm, do you ever get the feeling like you're reading something or absorbing something and you think, is this just supposed to be surface level, or is there something else happening here? I go back and forth with this one, but I just can't shake the feeling that there's lots of themes going on here. And I think well, with this issue, Crave, the app, continues to wreak havoc on the people who use it. For those who aren't familiar, just this isn't very spoilery, but it's Crave is an app that people are using, and you can type in kind of what your desire is. So you can say, I want so and so to kiss me or whatever, usually sexual. And the app will tell you you have an 89% chance of this happening. Go to the library and meet so and so there. And so if you match up, then the app will send you to meet this other person, and then things happen, presumably, right? So everyone's using this app, so everyone's out doing things and not using their best judgment. And I do get the feeling that it's a commentary on social media and technology, the instant gratification of turning something on and having that dopamine hit, the illusion of gratification even, and not considering the consequences long term. So I do think that a lot of these, we see all these people doing these sexual acts everywhere because they're using this app and they're getting together, not really thinking about what will happen 10 minutes from now or tomorrow or a month from now or whatever. So I think it's about, that's kind of my takeaway, is that it's a commentary on social media, on technology, on the immediacy of it, and the addictive nature of it, and just all the ways that it can really harm you and change. It can change your decision making, and you can make decisions that you probably normally wouldn't, just because of just that rush of dopamine that you get. And also, I wrote this down. I'm not sure if I might be way off with this, but I also wonder if this is some kind of commentary on porn addiction, because porn addiction has been in the news a lot lately about how it can be really harmful to you. And so I do wonder if that's another kind of theme they're playing with, or an idea that they're playing with addiction, and that this in a healthy way. So, but overall, the artwork is very, I don't want to say simplistic. I don't want to say it's simple. It sounds like I'm being insulting, but it is very simple, but it fits. It fits the story. So overall, it's the whole package. I think is a very thought provoking book that I'm all on board with this one, and I'm not sure where it's going to go. I'm not sure where the storylines are going to go, or really what the point is, but I'm here to find out. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was able to read the first one, and just a few days ago, and boy, it's really thought provoking.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you wholeheartedly that I think we need to be. I'm not a big social media user at all, actually, but I see people using it, and I have concerns about how it's affecting our culture, how it's affecting decisions we make. Maybe I'm an old grandpa. I don't care. I do even hear younger people saying these things too,
Yeah.
and these things are this thing. The thing that I might say about this, which it doesn't, which I think is an issue with a lot of the social media stuff, is it doesn't seem, I don't seem tied to making money or what have you, but maybe there's something there. At least in issue one, and I know that a lot of these things are designed for you to be addicted, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
the addiction to me makes a lot of sense, and I'm very curious to explore what happens in issue two. And because I heard you talking about it, I went back and picked this one up.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about which I think is one of Steve's favorites, one of his favorites from last year. So this is issue 6 of Swan Songs, and I have to admit I've not read all of them. I read issue 1 and 2, and because it's an anthology series, that's okay. You can pick up issue 5 and maybe page through it a little bit, or issue 6, I will say, based on what I know about the series, is very different. So just know that getting into it, I don't think this would be one that you might want to start with.
Hmm.
but in many ways, if this is the end, I don't know if I'm not clear if this is the end of if it's just going to be this one volume or what. But yeah, it's really it's really fascinating, and I need to mention that of course it's by Image. I already mentioned it's issue 6, and the writer is W. Maxwell Prince with art by Martin Morazzo, and letters by good old Neon, and other names that are mentioned here as well. So, what can I say? It's a very, it's apparent within just a few pages that the style is totally different. There's a lot more writing here. The artwork is extremely toned down in that it's just in black and white image mostly. Not there's more to it than that, but because you're really looking at basically a book of limericks or poetry, more like children's rhymes, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Mm-hmm. There's certainly linkages to another book that I read when I was very young. I'm not going to say what it is, but you can figure it out very quickly. But that's something to keep in mind, that this is a gruesome tale, kind of a, the Swan Song is, of course, is about endings. You can't tell that right away what's going on. But it doesn't seem right away that everything is linked together, but I will say I needed to read it. I read it one time and then I had to go back. And so I kind of like that. It's, doesn't take that long. So anyway, so just to say it was really enjoyable, but it's just totally different, and it's almost not a comic book in some ways, because the writing far surpasses the imagery. But Prince is doing something special here. I've never seen anything like it, but that doesn't mean much. I just haven't seen much like this before. So it came very close to being my pick of the week, but it's difficult, again, to put it in the typical comic book category, if you will. Anyway, it's great. It's a great series. Maybe don't start with this one, but you can start, I think, as we said, you can read any of them.
Yeah, this one I started with this one last night, and I had the feeling that it would take a while to get through it, so I said, I'll come back to this. And then I just didn't have a chance to get to it before we recorded, but it did look. I got a few pages in, but yeah, it did feel dense. I felt like there was a lot going on.
I mean, I can't wait to hear what you think. It's really cool. Yeah, I think there is maybe a tie-in to some of his other work as well, by Prince.
Yeah,
that is pretty. That's right on the first page. So,
yeah, I need to read that volume. I have the first volume of Ice Cream Man on my shelf.
Yeah, yeah, the Ice Cream Man shows up right on the first page.
Yeah. So next, I will talk about The Madness. This is a book that I've been reading since issue 1. So any book that I start while doing the podcast, it has a special place in my heart. Sometimes because it's part of the podcast. But this is by J. Michael Straczynski, David Lorenzo, and Marcella Aiello. It's by AWA, and this one is a revenge tale. It's about a unhinged superhero, basically. The first issue started out with a lot of political intrigue. It started out with it had kind of a grounded feel to it, like a superhero feel, but it felt grounded. It felt like it was in the real world, like consequences if this really existed, politics and things like that. And it kind of veered off through the series into other things. And this is the last issue. This is 6 of 6. So I guess the end is fitting but there were some elements that were introduced in the series that just didn't pay off. And just felt like, why introduce these things if you're not going to really go all in with them? It kind of felt like, oh, look at this cool thing over here, and then we'd kind of ignore it and it'll just go away. Well, it felt a little bit of a bummer to not have those elements that were introduced that replaced other elements that I was really into. It's kind of disappointing we didn't get more of it, or we didn't get it. It kind of felt like, I get the feeling that this series will be continued at some point. It has to be, because it doesn't feel like a contained story. It feels like there's more to tell in this world. So I wasn't unhappy with it. It was fine. I do hope we get more in this universe, but it's a little bit of a letdown after all the build up. I kind of wanted more of a payoff at the end, but ending a story is tough. So
Yeah. Are you one of those people that if they don't stick the landing, it's kind of a wash? Or
yeah, I try to remember. I try to remember the good times we had together. But it is. Yeah, it wasn't a bad ending. There's been a lot worse endings, but it just felt a little bit of a letdown. It was more, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
okay,
Yeah. So I'll really quickly talk about Carnage 2. Every week I try to thumb through some superhero books at the store, at the local comic book shop, and I thumbed through a few, like Wolverine I saw. I was a big Wolverine fan when I was a kid, and thumbed through that. I just wasn't into it. I thumbed through Moon Knight. Forget the name of the title. I thumbed through House of X, like maybe. I just wasn't into it. Like I thumbed through a lot of superhero books, and I just couldn't do it. So I did continue Carnage 2. I liked the first issue. I thought it was like a spin on like a serial killer and Carnage being like a god, and kind of this play with those elements. Issue 2 lost me. There's some really, like I said, there's some elements that I really enjoy that were introduced, but there's way too many things being done here that I couldn't get into it. So I found myself losing interest about halfway, 3/4 of the book, and I think I'm just going to tap out on this one, which is unfortunate because I had hopes for it. I felt like there was some potential there, but I have to throw in the towel on Carnage. So
yeah, that's a bummer. But yeah, similarly, I do look through. Oh, we do have one DC comic coming up, or as well. I have one that I think we both read, but
yeah.
I even had to look up Carnage. It's kind of embarrassing to say it. I was like, how is he different from Venom? But but he's red, right?
Yeah.
So that's the big difference. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, yeah, there's some, I'm not the most well versed in the Spider-Man universe, but there's some differences, but essentially, yeah, it's a symbiote and it's a different color, different personality, but
yeah,
it wasn't enough for me to really keep my interest.
Okay. So the next one that I'm going to cover is Jennifer Blood, number 2. And this is from Dynamite. I should mention it's Jennifer Blood Battle Diary, because there's a whole nother series. And this is it's kind of a spin-off in a way. This is by Fred Van Lente, Robert Carey, and Deirdre Kelly. As I mentioned, this is issue number 2, and just like Ministry of Compliance, we're just picking up exactly where we left off. It's almost like the next panel. So I'm glad I went back again because I read the first issue over a month ago, and kind of it helped me bring back what's going on with Jennifer again. So she's back to her old tricks here. Basically, that pertains to kicking white supremacist ass. This one has a lot more build-up and plotting. The character is really interesting. The character is well written. I find her, and so are the other side characters, even though we don't know that much about them. So I really am enjoying the writing here. It's a gritty and corrupt world. It's our world. I think it takes place in the United States, but still, I believe it's a different version. But overall, I'm really happy with the series. It's close to it almost became my pick of the week. I think, I find it to be, and I want to go back and read at least the volume 1, the Garth Ennis. It's on my top 5, to go back and read. And I know that there was also a lot that came after, but at least I would love to get some backstory, because there's something in here going on where I'm not entirely sure where the motivation. That doesn't bother me at all. I love trying to think, what's this character doing? What's really motivating them? But if it doesn't pay off in the next maybe 3 or 4 issues, then it might be an issue. But I do hope to learn more about some of the motivations.
Yeah, I'll reread. I read it when it was published, Jennifer Blood, the Ennis run, but I'll reread that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So I think I'm coming next with, but I believe we both read this one, which is Kneel Before Zod, which is DC. This is issue number 1. And this is by Joe Casey and Dan McDade. And I was pleasantly surprised with this one. So we've got, we're going back to, I have to admit, I do know this character very well. I have to admit right off the bat, I watched Superman 2 like 40 times when I was younger. And why is that? That's because back then in the 80s, we had HBO, and it just played the same stuff over and over again. And this is one of the things I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just is imprinted on your brain. So it brings me back, and this is it was again pleasant. I was pleasantly surprised. We learn about Zod. He's on another planet. We do go back and see, Jor-El. So there's, I believe that's Superman's father. I got that right. He's a villain. So, but we can see, I don't know. It's, you have to, I guess you have to kind of say, well, I'm reading about a bad guy here. But we do understand his motivation and why he gets so enraged. I thought the artwork was very well balanced. The cover is awesome. At least the cover that I have. I know there are all these variants. But like I said, it brought me back to those days. And one of the characters resembles the character from the movie. I'm talking about the Christopher Reeve, by the way, film. I didn't write down her name. But Zod does not resemble Terrence Stamp, if you were wondering.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah, I like this one. I think I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm a fan of like the evil Superman kind of thing, and it's basically the opposite of Superman. And like you said, he's an antagonist, but you kind of see where he's coming from. Like, you get where his perspective is. You may not agree with it, but so yeah, I dug it. I thought it was good. You also see that he seems to be having some like flashbacks almost of other past events that have happened with battles he's had that I thought was pretty neat. And he definitely is a hardliner. He's a true believer, and he makes some decisions in this one that I was a little bit surprised with. But I love Zod. I think he's such a great character. I think I wish we had more stories with him, and he's like, maybe there's a lot of stories I'm not familiar with, but he seems like an underused character in the DC universe.
Yeah. So you think you'll continue with this one?
Oh yeah, I'll continue this one. Yeah.
And I think we saw at the back of this issue that there's, well, this is not new, but there's, I was intrigued by Bizarro Superman. Um, I guess we got like a sneak peek or something at the back of this issue too. It's kind of interesting, but I might check that out. But it's under Superman Action Comics. Anyway, speaking of, I don't know how utilized Bizarro Superman is, if that's what we call him.
Yeah. Bizarro.
But I kind of thought he was interesting.
Yeah, I like all the. I find myself more interested in the Superman villains and like the side, like Bizarro Superman than I am actual Superman.
Sure.
So another issue we both read this week, which is Bloodrick. It's Bloodrick 2. This is by Andrew Cranky, and this is by Image Comics. I'm torn on this one. I'm big on the barbarian archetype. It seems like a love letter to people who love barbarians. It is kind of just like a big barbarian does things is basically the book. It's a light on story, but I love the artwork and the aesthetic. There's some clever layouts and panels. There's some things to do with the art that kind of mix into the panels that I thought was great. It's very visually appealing, but so I'll keep reading just because it's neat to look at, but I wish there was more story or depth. So that there was more meat on the bone, more for us to sink our teeth into, because we know next to nothing about Bloodrick. I mean, really, and I'm starting to wonder if he's just like a fairy tale, if he's not a real person. He's just a fairy tale that people make stories about to entertain or to scare kids or to teach life lessons to, or I'm beginning to wonder, is he even like a person? It's just like a folk tale.
I would call this Bloodrick with the subtitle "The Quest for Food Continues."
Yeah,
because I mean that was what's happening in the first issue. It's kind of got a survivalist component. I found it to be soothing in some ways, but that is all about the artwork. I think it almost has like a woodcut feel or something. It has some special. He's doing something special with the lines. Cranky, and I'm not. I don't have the words to describe it. I guess just have to check it out. Yeah, and there's the only thing that I would mention is I think there's only 3 issues. So I had the same question, like, where is this? Yeah, where is it going? But I guess we'll see, or maybe we won't see much. But yeah, I'm going to stick with it too because I do want to see how this plays out.
Yes, so the next one, I believe, let's see. Oh, the next one's yours, I think. Blood Commandment.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, I have my order mixed up too, so you're fine.
No, it's okay. We don't. We're good here.
We're professionals.
Yes. So we had. So this is another case where I went back. I was call me crazy. I went back and I read issues 1 and 2 of Blood Commandment, and here we are with issue 3. And this is Image Comics, and this is by primarily Simon Kudransky. I went and looked him up and saw that he was a big Spawn artist. He's done many Spawn issues.
Oh wow!
And I think this may be one of. I think this isn't his first foray into kind of leading or taking the helm. But I think you probably mentioned this before, but because it was my first time getting into this, I really kind of got into the tone. It's almost it's not black and white, but there's a lot of dark black and white or dark purple or indigo used with little splashes of red, and I think that's probably been done before. But I found the artwork to be breathtaking and almost like composed like a movie, like a film, in some ways. But maybe, yeah, I could see how maybe not everybody would maybe get into that, especially if you don't like horror. This is a vampire story, which I think you've said before, Steve. And the main character, all I can say is his past catches up with him.
Yeah.
And some really interesting turns are taken here, which I won't give all the details at all. But I liked it. I think my one critique is the dialogue can be a little clunky to me at times, but it's not bad. I think for me the visuals are really what are on display here.
Yeah, it is visually very appealing, and it's just I love the artwork. But yeah, if you're not a fan of horror, it's probably not for you. It's probably not one that you'll enjoy a whole lot. But if you're into horror, into like the gothic, vampire stories, or think you may be into it. But I did, not to spoil anything, but with one more issue, I do wonder how it's going to wrap up. I have to think that it's going to continue past this, and it seems like there's too much going on to finish in one more issue. And I did kind of think our villain in this issue makes some points, and it's like they're not wrong.
Yeah.
You got me. So I'm like, oh yeah, maybe it was a point, but so we'll get into our picks of the week. This is close because I think your pick of the week was almost mine. I went back and forth a lot, but I just have to go with Sacrificers number 6 by Rick Remender, Max Fuyama, Dave McCaig. I'm sorry I butcher everyone's name. By Image Comics. Just another fantastic issue. I'm excited to see what happens next. There were some unexpected deaths and some turns I did not see coming. I did not expect. Very surprised, but I do like it when we see characters that we expect to be around for a while and they aren't anymore. So I like that. The art and the colors are just gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. The character work, the expressions, it just gorgeous book. And I just love seeing I don't want to spoil too much. I do love seeing the character that we've been with from the beginning, one of them, kind of have his moment, I guess you can say, or may have his moment soon. But yeah, I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but yeah, it's I'm excited to see where it goes next. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book.
Yeah, I can't. I'm going to agree with you on almost pretty much all of these points. I can't help but comment on how well composed this is from a visuals perspective. I'm no art expert, but there's just some of the characters there. They represent different elements of nature or what have you, and just the way it's done is really mesmerizing. The only issue I have is that there was something that happened where this one character became very strong all of a sudden, and I didn't understand exactly where it came from. I think I might have understood, but it seemed like a pretty big turn. So that was something where I was like, But there was a lot of other major surprises and changes that took place that tells us, which we may have said this before, that nobody seems safe in this world. But it's fantastic. And I did see that there's like the letters section at the end, or I don't know if it said it there or where, but I think they're taking a break. So the next issue is going to come in March or April, I think. Anyway,
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So that's why I asked you. I think with Antarctica is like, it is just continue with this one. They said, yeah, we're taking a couple month hiatus.
Oh no, I didn't see that. I just skimmed the letters. I didn't notice that.
Maybe it was just before that. I saw it somewhere. Anyway, I'm pretty sure.
Well, damn.
Kind of a bummer.
Yeah. But
I think they're going to put volume 1 trade out. I saw that somewhere advertised online. So who knows?
I'll let them slide this time. If they keep pumping out such great work, then I'm fine. Take all the time you need. Just come back. Just don't forget about us.
Oh yeah. I agree. So my pick of the week is Red Light #2, and I did read this 2 weeks ago, so it's a little bit foggy, but I think I have a pretty good recall of what happened, because it's just a nice follow-up to issue 1, which is this futuristic world where there's this AI, basically like a sex worker character that is the main character that we follow her trajectory, and she's completely sentient and like anybody in her situation, which seems like a terrible situation that we would never do to any human. She's trying to find a way out, and so we get to see a lot more of what that trajectory is like, where she's headed. And she has emotion, even though like her body, I guess, doesn't feel pain. And there's crazy things that happen, terrible things even that happen to her body. But overall it was really good. We see the intelligence of and now I'm blanking on her name.
Lacy.
Lacy, thank you so much. And one thing I will mention is everybody that seems to visit her are these men with like washboard abs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that's on purpose. I neglected to mention the author. This is written by Sarah Cho. And then with artwork by Priscilla Petrades and coloring by Miroslav Mirva. Visually there's a glowing feel. There's like almost like dot matrix kind of pattern that I haven't really seen much before. Maybe you have. That's just really kind of different.
Yeah, this one was close to being my pick too. It was probably the toss up between the two. But like you mentioned, seeing Lacy develop compassion and care for Natalie and put herself at risk because she feels empathy and cares for Natalie. And we're not even sure if Natalie's a AI either or a person. At least I don't think we have. We haven't had a confirmation on that yet. But it's seeing this being start to develop human emotion, and even given her circumstance, where she's learning to read and write, learning to basically use her clients for information. So using them to find out about the outside world and how she can get out. I thought all that was very clever, and the methods that she used to get that information, I thought was also very telling about men and kind of like someone who would visit a sex robot. I mean, so anyway, it's a whole other conversation, but the book is fantastic. And There was one thing that I was wondering about. She makes a decision in this book, and a lot of the decisions she considers, she has a probability, like you have a such and such probability of this being successful. Kind of like tells her software, her programming. There was a decision she makes that I felt was really odd, that I think had a very low chance of succeeding. So that was the only thing that made me wonder. Maybe it was for a reason, but you definitely feel that there are some events in this book that will really springboard the series forward and change things for everyone involved.
Wow, Steve, you really covered some really key elements that I did remember, but yeah, this is this again, some good reasons why it was a pick of the week for me. And yeah, I'm curious to see what happens next. There's only 4 of these, so we only have two issues left. Now, that was the same for something else? Is it Blood Commandment? I'm very curious about that. Maybe that's a stupid question.
No.
But how is that decided? We're just going to do so many issues for some of these companies, publishers, I don't know. I guess, anyway, could be budget related, but who knows?
I think it has to do with the risk involved with if a creative team comes in and says, we have an idea for a 4-issue series, they may have more of a chance of getting it published than if they came and said, we have an indefinite series that will go on forever, or we have a 30-issue series. We're talking several years and lots of investment. But if they have a 4-issue series that they can finish ahead of time and release on time, then maybe it's more willing to take that risk of, well, it's 4 issues, we'll give it a shot if it's a proven creative team. So yeah, but I do wonder too how they're going to wrap this up in 4, given the kind of all the things that are being introduced.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for commenting on that. The other thing is, of course, maybe this is something it is something I think we have in common, is we're not going to the big, maybe some of a lot, we're trying out new things more, that's what drives me. I did say this to at the comic book store the other day. I was like, I'm really interested in something new,
Yeah.
I don't know why. I know that this world it's all about, making profit and all that. But we need creativity, man. Anyway, as much as we can do, I don't know if, to the limited ability to get the word out there for some of these new works of art, all the better.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think too, like readers like us who see a book and say, oh, it's 1 of 4, I'll give it a shot. But if we see a book that's indefinite, I think The Sacrificers is a bit of a exception, just because it's so, number one, it's so good, and the creative team is, Rick Remender is one of those people who you just see and you just, well, it's Rick Remender, I'll try it. So if you like Rick Remender, you're more willing to try it. But I think people who see 1 of 4 were like, well, it's a 4-issue series, I'll try it out, because that it's going to finish up, it's going to wrap up, you'll have a complete story. It kind of reminds me of a lot of these, like a TV series that starts, that you think, okay, well, the series starts, you really, really like season 1, and then it gets canceled, and then you never see how it ends, and it's like, I wasted my time. I'll never know how it ends. So I think knowing that there's an end, knowing that there's it's going to close the loop, then it's like, well, I'll try it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, pretty good week though. I think I only had one stinker. I think Carnage was the only one. I almost bought lots of Marvel this week, just because it looked. I thought, well, I used to like Wolverine, and this Moon Knight cover's cool, and there's House of X looks okay, but I couldn't, I couldn't do it. Just wasn't into it.
I think what I need to be doing more of, though, is trying to tune into if it's particular writers, and maybe we. I think that's something that I can look out for more. But I also do ask, what's popular, and sometimes there are just things that are considered popular that don't work for me. I'm not going to like it, but that is, I'm willing to give in. I will give anything a try. Once I'll even read, My Little Pony or whatever.
Yeah.
If the story is good,
Yeah.
There's a different take if it's a subversive My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's funny you say that about maybe 10 years ago or so. I remember I used to listen to a lot of comic book podcasts while I was at work, and there was a period of time there when My Little Pony was all the rage. I remember everyone talking about it, that it was really good. So you never know.
Yeah, I've heard there's a lot of lore and world building actually, but yeah. So I think that might just about do it for us. Steve, you're very good at kind of closing us out here. I will mention one thing I'm looking forward to next. I think we're going to be reading. Is it The Fade Out? Did I get the title right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've got those books, and I'm hoping to join the discussion.
Awesome. Yeah, we will be reading The Fade Out, and our group is reading Berserk right now. We're on volume 33, I think. So once that wraps up, or once at least we get current, I plan to schedule many more books to just discuss on a more regular basis once that wraps up. So yeah, nice. So we'll do, once Berserk wraps up, it'll free up time in the schedule to read other books. And so there's just so many books out there I want to get to. So more discussions to come.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, so I think that'll about wrap it up for us. But if you'd like to get in touch, find us on pagechewing.com, join our forums. I do have to manually approve every new member. So if you do apply, be patient with me and give me a little bit of time to make sure you're not a bot or a spammer. And you come by and talk to us and chat with us and tell us how wrong we are and how Moon Knight is the best book ever. We'd like to hear from you. Yeah. So, but yeah, also, we have lots and lots of discussions going on the forum. We have TV shows, movies, books, just so many things, and anyone's welcome. So come on by and say hello and join our little group. So until next time, we will talk to everyone soon. Have a great week.
Okay. Talk to you next week.